First up this half hour, as a new president is about to start making history, the legacies of our former leaders are enshrined in presidential libraries.
There are now 13 libraries across the country. President Obama's, to be built in Chicago, will be the 14th. And CBS News travel editor Peter Greenberg is here to tell us all about them. Peter, good morning.
Good morning.
So let's start with the president whose name was mentioned a lot on the campaign trail, Ronald Reagan.
This library was opened in 1991. It's perhaps the most popular presidential library. Such cool deals they have out there. First of all, starting with Air Force One, the original 707, tail number 27,000. It flew Nixon, Ford, Carter, and Reagan.
Wow.
All the old presidential limousines are there, and they look so old now compared to what, but there's very cool stuff. But remember, it's all about what happened during his presidency, not necessarily what he did. So they have a great exhibit now on how technology was shaped by popular culture. R2-D2, the Terminator, all those things from Alien, it's all there.
Wow.
Yeah.
Another very popular museum on the other coast in Boston.
Yes, also a very popular museum, the Jfk Library in Boston, all of his archives and papers. Some of the things you'd expect, the Cuban Missile Crisis is talked about, of course, the assassination, but also PT-109 and his service during World War II, and the really cool thing, the space race, the Mercury 7 space capsule that launched our first astronaut on the first orbit, Alan Shepard.
Peter, let's go back out west to another president who has more of a complicated legacy, Richard Nixon. Yeah, that's putting it lightly.
Opened in 1990 in Yorba Linda, California. As you might expect, it's got a permanent exhibit on Watergate, the break-in, the cover-up. But what you have in that library, of course, are all the archives in his papers, over 4,500 audio recordings. So they're constantly updating that exhibit as the story begins to evolve, even now.
Wow, living history.
We're going to go now to the president who actually initially had the idea for presidential libraries, and actually not far from here, FDR.
Up in Hyde Park, New York. It was actually opened in 1941. Interestingly enough, one of the only presidential libraries that was open while the man was still president. Right? And what you have there is, of course, all the World War II stuff. You have the fireside chats, his famous, his broadcast to the American public. And upcoming is going to be an exhibit on the Japanese internment during World War II, and the story behind it. FDR was in favor of it, and Eleanor, his wife, was opposed to it.
It's not an important part of history that often gets looked over. The most recently built library can be found in Dallas. What about the George W. Bush Library?
This is a fascinating library, opened in 2013. There's an exhibit that just finished there, but it's going to rotate on the path to the presidency as an interactive exhibit. But what's happening now is, even now, George W. Bush got involved in the next exhibit about portraits of courage, 66 photographs of American military heroes, including a 4-panel painting that he did himself of 4 American military folks. Yeah.
Bush painting. I've always wanted to see it.
He's on exhibit.
Some great places to visit. Peter Greenberg, thanks very much.
You got it.